Chapter 4. I quit school after I came back from hiding. I kept expecting the teacher, the principal, or the police chief to show up any day for my capture. I asked Jai and Buckle, who still talked to me occasionally, whether they had heard anything about a public meeting to be held soon in the school. They said no. I spent my time weeding the sweet potatoes in the fields, building a dirt wall in our backyard, carrying lunches and dinners to my brothers and sisters in the fields in little bamboo baskets slung over my shoulders, and spreading wet hay to dry before storing it in the evenings. Bugs crawled everywhere, and the moist hay's sharp blade-like edges made my skin itch constantly. As I became more and more settled into the routine of a young farmhand, part of me was dying inside. I felt old and rejected, a misfit. The people I worked with were all older farmers who could no longer work the fields. I no longer played. I had aged and had become an outcast. By now, everyone knew the reason why I had quit school. Sometimes the kids shouted outside my house, calling me the little counter-revolutionary, daring me to come out and fight them. I would clutch a sharp spade and wait behind the door in case they burst through and attacked us. A few times, stones were thrown against our windows. One morning, Mom found a dead bird in our backyard, headless. I suspected the teacher had urged his gang to come after me. Whenever Mom asked me to run out to buy some soy sauce, I checked the street first, then darted out and back. The last thing I wanted to do was cause any more trouble. But every night before I went to sleep, I wrote in my diary, trying not to forget the words I had learned. I made up a lot of signs for the words I didn't know. There was nothing good to write about. Often I found myself drawing a picture of LaShawn, the chinless skunk, and adding a huge bullet hole in his forehead. Someday I wanted to avenge all the things that had been done to me. Maybe when I grew up, or maybe when the world changed. Then one day, a kind-hearted teacher named Mr. Lon from our neighborhood dropped by to have tea with us. He casually mentioned that he had brokered a deal with the school to allow me to enter Group 8 of the 4th grade. He said, smiling, "It's better than being a farmer, and genuine pearls shine even in darkness." I remembered that line for a long time. With mixed feelings of joy, fear, curiosity, and suspicion, I dusted off my books and prepared for the frightening ordeal of going back to face the very same people I had tried to avoid. On Monday morning, shock hit me as I stepped into the classroom of the fabled Group 8. The kids hooted at me. It took me a second before I noticed that the seating arrangement was unlike that in any other classroom. The desks were separated into two corners. One was for 8 girls in the front. The other was in the far back corner for the boys. There was a huge empty space in the middle of the room where trash and paper planes were piled up. The teacher gestured with his cigarette in the direction of the boys' group and absent-mindedly said, "Pick a chair for yourselves over there." "Which one?" I asked. The dirty faces from the boys' corner looked dangerously back at me. "Any seat," I said. The teacher, whom I came to know as Mr. Chu, swiped his arm in a general direction again. I nervously walked down the open space in the middle and took a seat at the edge of the group next to a fat, ugly little guy. "What are you doing here, big shot?" my new neighbor shouted, stretching his arms to mark his territory line on the desk we shared. Somehow, I had a feeling they knew I had been kicked out of Group 1. where all the brightest students and the snobs were. By the second class, I was able to answer 80% of the math questions. And by the third class, the class had found a new star. At the end of the day, a big guy with a nasty cut, who was known as the King, walked over and patted my shoulder, announcing, "From now on, you can sit next to me and do my homework whenever I feel like it." I was flattered by the intimacy and readily agreed. It wasn't as if I had any choice. The boy was a head taller than me and was surrounded by all his lieutenants, each more devilish than the other. They seemed to be the class mafia. That night, lying in bed, I was convinced that I couldn't have found a more nurturing environment to revive my student career. My classmates were animals, but they couldn't care less where I had come from. They respected me. I considered it a tragedy when Group 8 was dissolved at the end of the term. A school closer to the villagers reopened and the students happily went back to their own school. I got placed in Group 2, next door to the hateful faces I tried to erase from my memory forever. Each day, I ran past the doors of Group 1 as fast as possible, for fear of bumping into them and getting into trouble. In the new group, I soon became the recognized top student. I began to hear some good words from a few of the teachers, but a gang of students in my new class was organized against me. It was headed by a sneaky boy called Han, whose father had fallen out with mine after a bee-raising business they had started together failed. The others in the gang were Kui, the son of a local politician, and Wang, whose father was a carpenter and an enemy of some of my father's good friends. During this time, Grandpa was slowly dying. He was 77 years old. Almost every day, I found writings on the blackboard that debased and humiliated him. On the day he died, we carried him in a wheelbarrow about 20 miles away to the city of Putine for cremation. I wore a white shirt and spread pieces of paper money over the bridges we passed and chanted sayings like "peaceful passing" to the imaginary soldiers guarding the bridges. In the crowd that watched the procession, I saw the three ugly mugs of Han, Kui, and Wang smiling without pity or sympathy. They even made faces at me. I bit my lips, trying to control my sadness and hatred. Tears poured forth as the strong voice of revenge cried out within me. I wiped away my tears and walked on with my family, pushing Grandpa's body along the dirt road to Putine for 2 more hours. When we got there, 4 young monks were hired to carry Grandpa up the mountain to the cremation site. I knelt before his body with my family like a pious grandson, sobbing farewell as an ancient monk torched the wood pile beneath Grandpa's flimsy coffin. Flames shot up against the setting sun. My beloved Grandpa was no more.